Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. Thank you everyone that submitted questions on my Game of Thrones videos this weekend. Fun fact, I actually found out that there's like a YouTube limit on the amount of replies that you can do on a single comment. Everybody went so crazy after that finale. I guess YouTube just broke. Thank you everyone that's been submitting subtitle corrections too. I'll explain at the end of the video if you want to do that. If you see like an error in the subtitles and you want to correct it, it's actually really easy to do. So here we go. Just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet. On to questions. Starting with actually on Twitter, I actually pulled a couple questions off of Twitter. Zubair asks, which one would you read first or watch first if both season 6 and The Winds of Winter come out at the same time? I would probably just read them in the order that they come out. I don't wait for stuff. Like I consume media as it's released. I can understand the desire to hold off on certain things, like if you wait to watch something, but if I'm going to make a video about something and a book will help give context to that video, then I need to read it. Also, I really don't like waiting for stuff, so there's that too. I'm kind of impatient. Next question, Pinchgar asks, Daario was very persistent on going alone with Jorah. Are you worried he might be jealous and try to get rid of Jorah? No, I think there's a certain camaraderie between them. I mean, they're both kind of sellswords. They're both really smart people who are dedicated to Daenerys, so if nothing else, then that will bring them together. They want to help her. Jorah probably understands that he's never going to be with Daenerys, but he has this love for her that transcends physical love. He's what you would call a true believer. That's what his whole speech to Tyrion whenever they were traveling together was about true faith. So I'm just expecting total bro road trip, at least one episode of them traveling together before they find Daenerys. I don't think it'll be right away. Next question, Thomas asks, what is the connection between Dragonglass and Valyrian steel? Well, so obsidian, that's what Dragonglass is. That's basically volcanic rock that has cooled. Valyrian steel is tempered metal. Surprise, surprise, being that they both have very similar properties, we're probably going to find out on the show or in the books that you forge Valyrian steel by combining it with obsidian and tempering it with dragonfire. That's just an easy slam dunk for both the books and the show, because you have essentially what is like a Dragonglass factory on Dragonstone. Stannis said himself on the show, it's full of Dragonglass. Daenerys might feel compelled to return there at some point on her journey to Westeros and use it as like a base of operations. When it comes time to fight the White Walkers, they could turn it into a giant forge for making more Valyrian steel. The problem is that nobody in the books that we know about and nobody on the show knows the connection between obsidian and Valyrian steel. One way around that would be for Samwell to find something when he's at the Citadel. That feels like an easy thing to give his character. He's like the character that figures things out because he reads lots of books. So do not be surprised if in season 7, you see them figure out how to make more Valyrian steel and start doing that using Daenerys' dragons. Next question, Mariano asks, what are your thoughts on where Benjen is? Is he alive or dead? Well, George R. R. Martin leaves it a lot more open-ended than the show does. The show hasn't mentioned him at all, barely. So I think he's still alive, and I think he'll resurface as part of Bran's story. I know a lot of people are wondering if he might be Cold Hands in the books. That character hasn't shown up on the show, but it's implied that Cold Hands is much more ancient than Benjen could be, so I don't think that Cold Hands is Benjen. But yeah, he probably is alive, and he'll probably come back with White Walker intel. I know a lot of people are wondering if he might be the Night's King here, like he might have been co-opted by the White Walkers. If that were true, then they would probably go further to make this Night's King character look more like Joseph Mawle, look like the actor that plays Benjen. So I don't think this is Benjen. Next question, Anthony asks, if Arya wears a new face, would she be able to see with it? Do you think that would persuade her to stop being Arya and become no one? No, I think that she's always going to be Arya Stark. I think that at some point she'll regain her sight, but then she'll backtrack again. Jaqen did imply that all manner of unusual things could happen when a girl puts on another face, as if he was trying to say that Arya trying to use the face that she used is what made her blind. But I think there's a magical component to it that she just doesn't know about yet. Just wearing the face itself is just a mask. It doesn't change anything about her magically. The magic part is a different technique that Jaqen just hasn't taught her yet. Next question, Popcorn asks, the only thing that went through my head when Ellaria kissed Myrcella was, well, she's dead. Well, yeah, that could be Myrcella dying could be the thing that makes Jaime become a terrible person again. Cersei looks like she backtracked and she's going to be terrible in season 6. The same thing could happen to Jaime. Like Jaime's time with Brienne made him want to be a better person. He tried it, this happens and erases all the progress he's made, and he just turns into a terrible person just like Cersei. Thematically, that would kind of fit with what's going on with Arya. Like, you try to be this new person, but you can never escape the person that you really are. Next question, Blind Samurai asks, you know what they need? Valyrian steel bullets. That's an interesting idea, but I think an aerosolized version of Valyrian steel would work even better, like turn it into like a gas bomb. The problem with using projectile Valyrian steel weapons is that you lose the Valyrian steel the minute you fire it from a gun or a bow. So it's like a one-time only kind of thing. If you have a giant army of White Walkers and Whites, it'd make more sense to use an area of effect weapon, like a giant gas bomb. Some of you have asked about wildfire, like is wildfire effective against the White Walkers? It looks like normal fire isn't, because that White Walker in episode 8 walked right through it without giving it a second thought. There are like a couple weapons on the show that they've been pointing to as being very important, dragon related. I think those will be effective against White Walkers. Anything to do with dragons or volcanoes. Next question, Remy asks, when will Game of Thrones start shooting? Will Winds of Winter be released before season 6? Well, Game of Thrones typically starts shooting sometime around whenever Comic-Con happens, like late June, early July. That's why all the actors aren't always able to come to Comic-Con. The earliest estimates for Winds of Winter is on or about the time season 6 gets ready to come out. That's if there aren't any major delays, or George R. R. Martin doesn't run into any problems. He hasn't made any promises, he hasn't said that, that's just people guessing at how fast he writes and how much material is left to cover. He's not going to say it's ready to come out until he submits his final manuscript for the final material to his editor. So when his editor decides that it doesn't need any more editing and they can start printing copies, then they'll have a date. Next question, Zoo asks, can you give a prediction on Bran? Well, I think what's going to happen with Bran is that he will have information on the White Walkers that he gets via flashbacks. His story right now is almost exclusive to what's going on with the War for the Dawn, and there's a lot of other things happening on the show, so they just weren't quite ready to go that far that fast. They still want to withhold a lot of that information from the audience. And when you have a character that has that much power over nature and can see across time and space, it just throws the narrative off. What I'd really like to see is Bran send visions to the other characters. Like give Daenerys a vision of what she needs to do in the way that the Three-Eyed Raven gave visions to Bran. Next question, Airfinch asks, so has the show caught up completely with the books now? No, actually it has not. There are a lot of things that they skipped in the books that they might go back to in season 6. There's a lot of people theorizing that they skipped Lady Stoneheart, which actually happened a while ago in the books, so that when they do it on the show it'll be a bigger WTF, so they might give some of the Lady Stoneheart arc to a different character. Some other really big examples are Euron Greyjoy and the Kingsmoot. They skipped that altogether. So there are bits and pieces and details that are really important to what's happening in the War for the Dawn that they just didn't have time for, characters that they had to cut out, that they could always include in slightly different ways in future seasons. And remember, Winds of Winter is going to come out next year. Dan and Dave are going to read that, so they could incorporate some Winds of Winter stuff into season 7. And that's assuming that George R. R. Martin hasn't let them read any of his work prints from Winds of Winter right now, like any unfinished chapters. Thank you so much though everyone for submitting questions. These are always a ton of fun to do. And yes, I will keep doing Q&A videos. But for those asking which books to start reading now, here are a couple recommendations. If you haven't read anything yet, just start with the first book. By the time you get through all 5 books in the next 9 months or so, Winds of Winter will be out and season 6 will start. If you've already read all the main novels or you don't care about them, check out the side stories. Just go to George R. R. Martin's author page on Amazon. There's The Rogue Prince, The Princess and the Queen. Those 2 stories comprise the Dance of the Dragon storyline that Shireen was reading to Sir Davos in episode 9. This October, they're re-releasing the Duck and Egg trilogy in combined format, like all 3 books jammed into one giant book. That's all about the early life of Aegon V. That's where the name Egg comes from. Egg as in Aegon. If you haven't checked it out either, World of Ice and Fire is a lot of fun too. There's a lot more illustrations in that book. It's mostly historical. It's like a combination of a bunch of stuff from the wiki. Speaking of books, congratulations to my giveaway winners. Anthony Barnes, you win the signed copy of A Feast for Crows, and Stalking Self, I love that name, you win the Amazon gift card. Both of you be sure to message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact info. My next Game of Thrones bonus video should post Thursday or Friday. That's going to be an explainer for all the resurrections that have happened on the show between the Red God and the Great Other. There's just like so much Game of Thrones stuff to get through that I'm kind of behind on my other videos, so I'm trying to catch up on everything this week. Those of you that want to help out with subtitles, it's really simple. If you see an error in the subtitles, just go in through the subtitle menu here. You select Add Captions and it'll take you to this menu where you can edit specific portions of the existing subtitle. So it's really simple. You don't have to make like completely new subtitles. Thank you everyone in advance if you want to help out with this. In case you haven't seen it yet, I just posted my season 6 predictions. You can click here to watch that, and you can click here for my finale video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tomorrow.